Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I'm honored to rise again in the chamber today. As we transition from the daily management of COVID-19 to learning to live with it, I want to thank the people of Saskatchewan for their ongoing resilience and support, for their patience and understanding during the public health restrictions, and for getting the vaccines to protect themselves and their neighbors. I thank you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, just as we are endeavoring to return to normal, we have been struck by new uncertainties brought on by the unprovoked attack by Russia on Ukraine. To Ukraine and to our abundant Ukrainian community here in Saskatchewan, I want you to know I feel your pain and I stand with you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my wife Seema and my children Simran, Indu and TJ for their continued love and support. They provide me with eternal stability, motivation and inspiration that allows me to perform my duties in this job. My wife Seema is always willing to lend an ear and an opinion whenever I need it. She has been a huge support since she came into my life, almost 39 years ago. I am also thankful to my constituency assistant Cheryl for her continued patience and great support to both myself and my constituents in Regina Northeast. I'm grateful for her hard work and dedication in assisting everyone who needs our help. I would also like to extend a thank you to the caucus office for their continued guidance and coordination, and to the Legislative Assembly Services for assuring all legislative administrative matters are managed in a very efficient manner. I am grateful to my constituents of Regina Northeast for their continued support. Since my budget reply last year, I have some great news to share, Mr. Speaker. There is a new addition to my family, the birth of my new grandson, a very good-looking little boy, Henry Tej Grewal. He is my son TJ and his wife, Raylin's first child. My other grandchildren, Mila and Niam, are so very excited to have a little cousin. Mila is always saying, Henry is so perfect. They were so happy to see him in person, to snuggle him and pinch his chubby cheeks. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is my pleasure today to provide a reply to the budget speech that was given by our Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance last Wednesday. I want to commend her on this budget that emphasizes a growing economy, improving finances, and a clear path to balance with significant investments in government services for Saskatchewan people. She always fascinates me by her great vision and intelligence. She has a unique style of explaining complex matters in a very simple way. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I find it so difficult to apprehend why the members opposite find it so hard to understand her. This budget shows how our government is working to continue the progress we have made in building a strong economy and vibrant communities, while also improving health care and protecting our most vulnerable. We are back on track. Our economy, our finances, and government service are on track. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have been responsible with our finances and have been able to reduce Saskatchewan's level of net debt. This has been achieved despite going through a global pandemic that no one saw coming. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the $463 million deficit forecast for this year's budget is $2.1 billion improvement from the last year's budget. A balanced budget is achievable and is expected in 4 years. Through proper management of our province's finances, our government has enabled us to not only survive, but to begin once again to thrive and build our province into the greatest it's ever been. I am so proud of Saskatchewan people's resilience, strength, and compassion for each other. Together, we have made it through this pandemic. Mr. Deputy Speaker, due to global demand, our province will benefit with the increased revenue from rising oil and potash prices. We will reinvest this revenue in healthcare. A record $6.8 billion investment into providing the best possible healthcare services for Saskatchewan residents. This includes a record 7% increase from last year to the Saskatchewan Health Authority. An increase over $20 million is to address the surgical wait list and to fund thousands of additional surgeries this year. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this will be the first year of a 3-year plan to deliver on the largest volume of surgical procedures in the history of our province. This aggressive plan targets a return to pre-COVID levels in surgical wait times by end of March 2025. A $17 million increase in this budget will go towards supports for our seniors, including home care services, high-dose influenza vaccines, and additional continuing care aid positions. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this budget establishes a new and independent agency dedicated to recruiting and retaining healthcare workers. It includes an increase to support recruitment initiatives with the development of a settlement and relocation incentive program. This program will recruit 150 healthcare workers to Saskatchewan from the Philippines. It will be the first year of a 2-year program aimed at bringing 300 healthcare workers from the Philippines to Saskatchewan. There is also $3.5 million for physician recruitment and retention initiatives. Mr. Deputy Speaker, $12.5 million in new funding will go towards 11 additional intensive care beds across the province. This will be the first year of a 3-year strategy to add 31 ICU beds. An increase of $3 million will fund 10 new high acuity beds at Regina General Hospital to care for patients with more complex medical needs than a traditional inpatient bed. To enhance emergency medical service in rural and remote areas, an almost $11 million increase in this budget will fund new paramedic positions for ambulance services, community paramedicine, and the medical first responder program. Mr. Deputy Speaker, over 7% of total health care spending will go towards mental health and addictions program and services. This is highest investment ever in Saskatchewan for these programs and services. The $8 million increase over last year will fund initiatives to provide effective counseling and treatments and introduce further proactive prevention measures. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is my eldest granddaughter Mila's first year of school. She started kindergarten in the fall. I am especially pleased that our government is increasing education spending by more than $47 million from last year. Our province's 27 school divisions will receive almost $2 billion in operating funding for the 2022 school year, a record level and an increase of almost $25 million over last year. And almost $3 billion up, nearly $220 million from last year, will go towards supporting pre-K to grade 12 students and staff for school and childcare. Mr. Deputy Speaker, a new $7 million fund in this budget will allow school divisions to hire up to 200 additional full-time educational assistants to support students and manage increasingly diverse classrooms. Funding for childcare and early learning is over $300 million, making access to high-quality childcare more affordable. This includes creating 6,100 new childcare spaces this year, which is part of our government's goal to create 28,000 new licensed spaces in the next 5 years. Mr. Deputy Speaker, parent-child care fees were reduced by up to 50% in licensed care last month. With this year's budget, a further reduction will occur this fall, putting money directly back into the pockets of working parents, bringing us closer to our goal of $10 a day average fee for regulated childcare. This budget will also expand nurse training by 150 seats, including operating and capital grants to post-secondary institutions and allocate $38 million for student supports. Mr. Deputy Speaker, to help the rest of the world discover Saskatchewan, a $5 million budget increase for Tourism Saskatchewan has been set to target both international and Canadian tourists. By increasing tourism, other provincial industries, such as hospitality, will also see increased profit, bringing them some much-needed relief. The rise in streaming services means the time is right to attract new investment from the film and television industry to Saskatchewan. This budget includes an increase of $8 million for the Creative Saskatchewan Production Grant Program for film and television. This was a topic that I heard on my campaign trail during the last election. To ensure these dollars stay in the province, only Saskatchewan labor, goods, and services are eligible for support under the program. The investment is estimated to generate a $50 million increase in film and television production and millions in annual economic activity, including significant increased spending in the hospitality industry, which has been hit hard by the pandemic, as we all know. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I was so pleased to hear that the Regina Soundstage, a state-of-the-art film and television production facility, will be renamed the John Hopkins Regina Soundstage, in the memory of a great man who was a passionate advocate for our Queen City and the province. This budget also includes over $3 million to fully fund the international trade and investment strategy. This strategy advances the province's economic interests abroad and is used to operate Saskatchewan's international office network. This year, we established offices in the United Kingdom, UAE, Mexico, and Vietnam, in addition to our existing offices in Japan, India, Singapore, and China. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Saskatchewan Value-Added Agriculture Incentive has been enhanced, and record agri-food exports of $17.5 billion in 2021 show the province is on track to meeting its goals. This incentive and others are key to Saskatchewan's competitiveness, attracting private investment from global companies like BHP, Richardson International, Viterra, Cirrus Global Egg, Cargill, Federated Cooperatives, AGT Foods, Paper Excellence, and Red Leaf Pulp. These companies and others are investing $13.6 billion into Saskatchewan with projects including a new potash mine, new and expanded canola crush facilities, a wheat-based pulp plant, a renewable diesel facility, a lumber mill, and others. It is expected, Mr. Speaker, that nearly 9,000 jobs in the construction phase and almost 2,500 permanent jobs will be created. Mr. Speaker, Saskatchewan has the second highest rate of job growth in Canada. Last year, we had 30,000 new jobs created province-wide. This budget includes $475,000 to create the Saskatchewan Indigenous Investment Finance Corporation. The corporation will offer up to $75 million in loan guarantees for private sector lending to Indigenous communities and organizations for investments into natural resource and value-added agriculture projects. The cap of the Saskatchewan Technology Startup Incentive will be increased as part of a merger between Innovation Agency and Saskatchewan Opportunities Commission. This tax credit cap increase will help build on the success of the program to date and will allow the continuation of investment stimulation in key areas to promote the province's economic growth. Mr. Deputy Speaker, there is over $3 billion for capital projects in this budget, a record investment in Saskatchewan. $156.6 million of this is going towards healthcare capital, including urgent care centers in Regina and Saskatoon, as well as the continuation of construction at the Prince Albert Victoria Hospital, the project to replace the Weyburn General Hospital, and the design and procurement activities for specialized and standard long-term care beds in Regina. Our budget includes a significant investment of 846 million through the Ministry of Highways to operate, maintain, build, and improve the province's roads and highways. This provides for over 1,000 kilometers of improvements on provincial highways, on track to meet the growth plan commitments to upgrade and build 10,000 kilometers of the provincial highway network by 2030. Upgrades include Highway 3, twinning west of Prince Albert, and Highway 5 corridor improvements east of Saskatoon. Planning and pre-construction for twinning projects on Highway 6 and 39 near Regina and Weyburn are also part of this budget. It also includes almost $170 million for school infrastructure, including the ongoing planning and construction of 15 new schools, the renovation of 5 existing schools, the purchase of relocatable classrooms, and for preventive and emergency maintenance. Mr. Deputy Speaker, through these efforts, we will continue to build on the progress we have made in recent years. A strong Saskatchewan economy and higher revenues have reduced operating debt requirements by $450 million last year, bringing operating debt to less than $10 billion. The $450 million lower operating debt requirement carries through to 22-23 debt forecast as well. With our economic growth in real GDP at 3.7% in 2022, Saskatchewan has the second lowest net debt to GDP ratio among the provinces. Mr. Deputy Speaker, our province also continues to have some of the lowest personal taxes in the country. A Saskatchewan family of 4 with $100,000 in total income pays $2,084 less this year compared to 15 years ago in 2007. And a family of 4 pays no provincial income tax on their first $53,435 of combined income. This is more than double the limit compared to 2007. With this greatly improved financial picture and a fiscal plan to return the budget to balance, Saskatchewan is truly back on track. Mr. Deputy Speaker, last Saturday, I attended a new restaurant's grand opening in Saskatoon with some of my colleagues, local MLAs from Saskatoon. It was so good to see people socializing and our citizens showing confidence to invest in new business ventures again. This shows the trust they have in the direction our government is going. Saskatchewan is the right place to invest and grow. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are on the right track. As quoted by Helen Keller, optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence. With that, I am very pleased to say that I will be supporting this budget presented by our Minister of Finance and seconded by the member from Moose Jaw North. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.